Hey guys, Anthony here from OPUS Campers. Now, we thought we'd do a quick little rundown on our air beam technology. So this is going to be one of our OPUS Owner's Hubs video in a way of how to repair an air beam, but it's a good tool for you guys to have a look at and see how our air beams actually work, what to do with them, what not to do with them, and how to really get across it. So we're going to jump on in. We've got two air beams here. These are our spreader beams out of an OP4. I've inflated them with our little hand pump there to 7 PSI. And we're gonna run through of the first question I get asked so much is what happens if I get a puncture? Now, every single air beam is isolatable. So we've set it up like this today so you can sort of see, okay, I've got two air beams here. What would happen if this air beam was removed out of the equation? It got a hole, something of the likes. We're gonna show you just how quick and easy it is. So everything is just pretty much screwed and locked together. So you can isolate the beam, pull off a connecting tube, and now I've taken a beam out of the mix and this one's still completely inflated. Now these beams, they're almost as tough as nails. So when I say that, there's a reason for that. There's so many layers that are involved here. It's a bit like an onion. The first layer without its external layers is essentially weak. It will not do anything. The first layer just gives it its air. The second layer, which is what I've got here, is what gives it its strength. This is like a Kevlar infused 300D material. When we jump into the third layer, which I don't have with me because that's a tent itself, that provides a bit more strength, but more importantly, it involves its shape. So you'll see our tents are always bent in a certain way, and that's what gives it that bend there. So we're gonna run through of a few scenarios of what not to do. Now, the biggest thing with these air beams is people get a bit curious when they want to open them up and have a little look-see, and look, rightly so, I did as well when I first started, but I got stitched up when I first started and I opened one of these up under pressure, and it was definitely a learning curve. So the big thing with these air beams, if you need to get inside of them, we'll show you how in this video. What a lot of people will do is this: they'll simply get to their little isolation zip here, they'll unpick it, open it all up, so it can't just happen accidentally. There's a bit of effort involved. They'll take this out, and you'll sort of see what will happen. They'll start to unzip it, and they'll unzip, until it does that. It will just herniate out and go, no thank you. Now, what will happen is, throughout the day as this air beam heats up, it now no longer has that support there. The air beam is completely unhappy with life, to say the least, and this is a ticking time bomb, unfortunately. So that's why we always say, don't play with your air beams until you know what to do. Give us a call first, or now in this case, watch this video. So I'll reset this, but unfortunately, once your air beam's done this, it's done for. That's now a massive weak spot. Give us a call. We'll send another one out to you. So the next big thing with the air beams is everyone always asks us, what happens if I stab it? What happens if my kid stabs it? Firstly, probably take sharp objects off your kid if they're gonna stab stuff. Would be my best advice. Secondly, you've got to have a fair crack on getting through these things. So I'll show you in a second, and I'll go through how to repair it. Basically, every single OPUS comes with everything you need to repair it, and it's an instant repair. You don't have to wait for hours of things to set. It's not like you have to go home because an air beam's popped, had an issue. There's always a plan B and C with OPUS. So I'll start having a crack at getting through this one. It's going to take you a few goes. It's not something that just accidentally happens. It's not a knife through butter jobby, and we'll show you how to repair it. So it's going to take you a fair crack to stab through these things. You literally need to have a proper go. You'll see that we're marking the canvas, but as you can see in here, the air isn't escaping yet. The canvas will always catch the sort of object that you're trying to stab it with. So you really have to have a go at it. And look, there's no joke here, they are scissors. It's not a dummy scissors. There she goes. So stab through it. Oh no, time to go home, throw your OPUS in the bin. Not the case. But what we're gonna do here is, the first things first is we're gonna isolate that beam, and we're gonna take the pressure out of that beam. Now look, obviously she's a bit flaccid already, but we're gonna take all the pressure out. Now, reason that we're taking all the pressure out, as we unzip this beam, the zip's not gonna catch on the beam because there's no pressure there. So we're gonna unzip the beam, find our hole, which is nice and easily marked. If you can't find it for whatever reason, put a little bit of air in here. When I say a little bit. So one pump on the compressor, that'll inflate everything and you'll hear a hole. If you still can't see it because it's that small, just spray some soapy water on it. So we're gonna go for our little TPU. Now, every single OPUS has one of these. It's called a TPU. Essentially, this is a stretchy plastic patch. Basically like you're repairing a puncture in your bike tire. Same sort of concept, but there's no messy glues. So we're gonna get our patch like so. Make sure it's clean. Now, obviously it's gonna be clean if you just pull it out here, but if you're doing it on like a beach or something of the like, you don't want sand or anything through it for obvious reasons. So we're just gonna throw the patch on, just get the hole roughly in the center of the patch. You know, you don't have to be a professional at this Simply put it on and just roll it all out. Now you're gonna get little creases, you're gonna get bubbles in it. Don't stress, you're never gonna see this. No one has to know. So that's literally us done. Now you see that flexes, it stretches, and it's not sort of fighting the air beam. So that's why we use these. So your OPUS will come with 4 of these. 2 in the annex bag, so use of the annex if you ever need them, and 2 in the actual main OPUS. But look, jump on our OPUS owners pages, you'll see how rare this happens. Alrighty, now the next critical component after you've done your patch is how you zip up the air beam. So you kind of want to get your main finger, your index finger, put it behind the zip completely, and then you want to zip it up. Reason being, you don't want to catch the air beam in the zip for obvious reasons. You do that, you could compromise the air beam and you could potentially put another hole in it. Now, make sure you zip this back up and make sure that you tie this back up. This will stop the issue of that internal bladder, potentially herniating out, which as you've seen can cause a bit of an issue as well. That's that. Now, look, if this was a massive hole, when I'm talking massive hole, I'm talking quite a few centimeters, you'd want to put a repair over this as well. Reason being, if you don't, it will herniate out. Something like this, you would never worry about. So we're gonna put some pressure in this and see how she's held up. So we put 7 PSI back into that. She's as good as the day she left factory. She's nice and strong, holding pressure. You can't hear the air coming out and you certainly can't feel it. Now, if you were a bit suspicious, you could definitely spray it with a bit of water just to confirm, but I've got enough faith in that patch that I'm not gonna have any issues with. Now, you could throw this back in your OPUS, run it for years and years and years and years, and it's never gonna give you an issue. But if you are one of those people that like to make sure everything is pristine and is prime, you can replace this whole internal air beam. They start from 30 bucks, work their way up to 130 bucks. It's cheaper than a regular 10 pole. I don't know if you price spare 10 poles up, and boy, they cop so much more punishment. I've run these over with cars, forklifts. I've backed into an annex after an interesting night, and it just bounces back, so it's pretty crazy. So look, that is an air beam. That runs you through the technology of them, how they work, what to do if you need to repair it, and most importantly, what not to do with an air beam. So I hope we've expelled all those myths of, I've got a hole in my OPUS, I've got to go home. It's simply not the case. You can isolate the air beam, leave it deflated, and patch it when you get home, or you can patch it on the trip, or you can repair it on the trip. You can get another air beam sent to you while you're on the trip because it's that easy to get to and replace. So that's me. Thank you for watching, guys. That's another episode of OPUS Owners Hub.